Thank you, Lions, for the warm reception. A few years ago, I made that critical decision that I wanted to attempt to go forward in Lions and decided to become a vice governor and follow along with the governor. The year I was vice governor, I got to meet Sue Jaegers from, I think you were with Oregon City or Beaver Creek, Jim? Beaver. Anyway, another Oregon club. But he was my classmate in going through governor school and everything else from Northwest Oregon. So Jim and I got a little bit of a rapport going. And I wanted to try and build a little connection between our multiple district and multiple district 36, which is just across the river. It's kind of silly when you think about the Columbia River runs right past us. There's another multiple district right there, yet our multiple district office in Bellingham, our multiple district consists of Washington, Idaho, British Columbia, and they're just right next to us. We don't have more interaction. So I tried to build that over the years, and Jim's been very helpful over that. As part of that process, I got to meet his lovely wife, Sue. And at those days, Sue was kind of the spouse of Jim, who was the speaker. Since about 2009, I believe, when we started the Earth Angels, or got involved in the Earth Angels program, it's kind of flipped. Jim is her traveling companion, and Sue is the one out promoting Lions. Just to give you a little bit of information on Sue and Jim, they have 3 children, 3 grandchildren. I learned the year I was at governor's school that they do not like to fly, or Sue does not like to fly, so they took the train all the way back to Chicago. I don't know what they would have done if it was in Thailand, but they did make it to the international swim, going through that way. Sue Jaegers is currently the president-elect of the Canby Lions Club. She served on the Oregon Lions Sight and Hearing Patient Care Committee. She's been named as Multiple District 36 Helen Keller Benefactor in 2011. And at their conference that they just had, she received the Lions Club's International President's Certificate of Appreciation, an MD 36 Service Award, and past International President Tam took a pin off his own lapel and presented to Sue at that meeting. She's been chair of the Earth Angels program from 2009 to the present. Yes. Please give a warm Lions welcome to Sue Jaegers.
I think I'm going to stand right here. I'd like to say hello to the president and thank you for having me here, and thank you, my Lion brothers and sisters. I'm going to do things a little different on this particular talk. Usually I tell you what our program, how easy it is, but I think I'm ready to flip-flop and tell you a little bit about some of our clients. Then I'll get you at the end. This has been a real heartwarming experience to be involved with this program. It's a program that we started in 2009, and some of our clients have been children that we've transported. For instance, we had a child that was 3 years old, had a severe asthma attack, and I know what that's like. Some of you just saw me use my inhaler. I'm on 2 of them now. This child ended up having a stroke. Couldn't talk, couldn't walk, can't breathe on her own hardly anymore. We got the call about her, and we picked her up at one of the local airports, got her into the Thornbeckers, where they did a procedure in her lungs that will allow her lungs to expand and tell her to breathe. They stayed at the Ronald McDonald House, which we've now become involved with. This little girl, it used to take 3 days for her to be able to come up from Southern Oregon to Portland was 1 day. 1 day at the doctor's and 1 day home. The mom is a single mom, and it was very hard financially for her. We now do this for her at no cost. The pilots fly her in, we pick her up, they fly her home. Or before, she had to spend, a couple of nights out on the road, and that gets very expensive, even for us that can afford it. And that's one thing I want you to remember as I'm talking. All of you came in cars today. You have a reliable car. But what happens if you live across state and they told you, your doctor said, you've got to get to Seattle to the cancer center? You didn't have a way to go. What would you do? How would you feel if no one cared? Some of us have older cars, but if you don't have gas to put in those cars, they're not going to get anywhere. We have another child that we transported that my husband picked up. They asked for a grandpa. And so since we are grandparents, he's picked this child up a couple of times. When this child was 2 years of age, like most children, was climbing on a picnic table, fell off head first between the table and a cement structure. This child was not able to do anything but sit in a wheelchair. They weren't able to say mama or dada, nothing. Couldn't lift their arms. Jim picked them up and he come home and it was really hitting him. It hit him hard. But the next month, or 2 months later, excuse me, he went and picked them up again. When he presented this little child a stuffed lion, which we do give to all the children, she was able to do something for the first time. She was able to take that lion and bring it to her and grasp it. That got to him as well. Before, that hadn't been possible. But again, we provided transportation for this child. And again, it was from the same general area that this other family had been in, and it took a 3-day trip. This child had to sit in a special chair. Not anymore, because our pilots were there and our lions were there to participate. We transport cancer patients. We do burn victims. This is one that always gets me. We have soldiers coming home. They get dropped off in Salem. And 90% of the time, they don't have their money to get home. And maybe their loved one doesn't have a way to come and get them. We're now transporting those people. Those soldiers who have given to us, we're now giving back. This is such an easy program. And you are the very first club to hear about it in Washington State, because we hope to bring it to Washington. All you have to do is take a phone call. When I was in Santa Monica meeting with the executive director of Angel Flight West, who is our primarily top person that we deal with, he asked me if I would come here because there are such a need for people to be transported in your state. We are transporting people right now from your state into Portland. But if some of you could help out, it would really be wonderful, because they wouldn't have to come to Portland. They could go to the Veterans Center here in your own state, or your own cancer patients. I've received tons of calls. This is how it works. The pilots will call me, and they say, "Hi Sue, this is Pilot John Smith. I have a client coming into such and such an airport. Could you have someone there to meet them?" I take their name, their number, I call one of my drivers, and by the way, Oregon is covered throughout the whole state, because the pilots can virtually land on any airstrip. They do not have to come into a big airport. I call them, I'll say, "I have a client coming in, can you pick them up at 10:30 Wednesday?" "No problem, I'll be there." We even have drivers that'll say, "Can I wait for them at the medical doctors and bring them back to the airport?" "Sure, that's great," because that helps out. That's how easy this program is. It's not one that requires a great deal of time, but look what you're giving. You are giving so much hope for these people. And you know, if we don't have hope, what are we going to do in this world? I am going to be going to Yakima next week to meet with your council. And I'm really going to push it. I know we have some people in the audience today that will be there. And I will go in depth with them more on how easy this program is. But I hope in the meantime, if any of you have connections, that you will get a hold of any of the incoming council, the current council, and let them know how important this community project is, because it is giving back. And as you know, what does our motto tell us when we are Lions? We serve. But for me, I always say united we serve, because if we're united, so much more gets done. It isn't going to cost you anything except a little bit of gas in your car, a big smile. You never give medical treatment. That's something you never want to do. These clients all have to be able to get in and out of our aircraft or our cars. And guess what? We've just been okay by LCI to use their trademark. It's the first time that's ever happened in the state of Oregon, and I'm not so sure in the whole western part of the United States. We are on file, we're protected, we can use the LCI insignia, we can use their trademarking, and so that was really exciting for us. As of date, we have done 750 missions in the 4 years that this got started. It might mean that you might not be busy, and that's good, because that means no one is hurt or no one is sick. But then again, you could get very busy. A couple of weeks ago, we had 4 or 5 different missions going in one day. And that was really something, because I wasn't sure where anybody was there for a little bit. But I just ask that you think about this program. I ask that when you think about it, remember at any given time, your luck could change. You may lose everything. We had a family in Oregon that was Lions that happened to. They didn't have a thing, and they had to have medical treatment. We ended up working with them. They are now back being Lions, by the way. So you know, it can happen to your own family. Just take this with your heart and think about what you would do if it was you, how you would feel if no one cared, and how you would feel if you had a whole room of Lion brothers and sisters that could reach out and help you. It's a very simple procedure, and you'll get a lot out of it, believe me, but you're giving them more. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate being here. I appreciate seeing Mark again. He's always lots of fun to be around. Mark and I are Facebook buddies. We're always shooting things off back and forth. I always love to see the things he posts. But if you have any questions, I'll be around afterwards, because I know you're kind of on a tight schedule and I don't want to take any more. Okay. Does anyone have a question then?
Sue, I didn't really have a question, but I wanted to bring up the fact that you have a display table over here that some of us may not have seen, so just encourage us to come.
Please look at the display table. You'll see pictures of some of our little children holding quilts. That's another thing that the children get is a quilt. And they do get the stuffed animals. They love that. And it's really nice for them to have something to hang on to, because when they're having a procedure, it's scary. And if they've got something to hug, and we try to give them Lions, and they really do appreciate that. So please think about it. I hope that you'll bring it to your state, because we do have a lot of clients up here that need you.
So we wouldn't necessarily have to transport somebody to like Portland International Airport. They can be here in Kelso, it could be Winlock, Toledo, any place that has a small airport.
And we're also doing something else that I failed to mention, and I know that you have some special needs camps in Washington. We're doing that as well. We're transporting these kids into these special needs camps. And Jim and I did some last summer, and I got to tell you, the smiles on those kids' faces when they were on their way to camp, they wouldn't have been able to get there if it hadn't been for the Angel Flight West pilots and for the Lions. So this is something that can go in many different fields. You can, you know, for instance, they've talked to me about going up to Canada. They have the STARS program there. However, Lions are up there too, and Lions can do other things on this. Instead of maybe not taking them to medical appointments, you could go out and do grocery shopping and that type of thing. And you can do that here as well. It's a much needed program. It's a program that started out just for medical, but it is able to go out and do other things. So thank you, and I appreciate everything. Oh, sure.
So if we were interested in helping out, would we contact you and you could put us on your list of people?
I will be willing to come here and get a coordinator going. It's very simple. As I say, this program had never existed until I did it, and so I pretty much have written it myself. And so it's been by mistake and happy times and so forth. But I would come, and primarily what you would want to do probably in each of your districts is to have one coordinator and then to have a committee. That coordinator would receive the phone call and then call out to the committee and say, I need to have transportation arranged. And that's how simple it is. Very, very simple. A lot more simpler than some of our other commitments that we have. You don't have to go out in the rain unless you're taking a patient. Yes?
Is this around the clock, like nighttime?
It's usually daytime hours only, and that's another thing, you usually get 24 to 48 hours notice. However, there are a few times we've had emergencies come in. We have a gentleman that we've transported out of Spokane, that's a veteran, and he had an infection, I believe, in a plate in his brain, and we had to get him into Portland right away to the veterans, and so that came up, pretty quickly. But normally it doesn't. We've been on cruise ships, and I've gotten a phone call, and it's been an emergency, but that's only been just, I think, 2 or 3 times. Normally, and that's what you do when you set this program up. You specifically tell Angel Flight West that you need 24 to 48 hours notice. Because, we all have lives, and we all are doing things. And if somebody says no, that's fine. They don't always guarantee our transportation. Any more questions? Thank you very much. May God bless you.
Lion Sue, on behalf of the Pioneer Lions, I'd like to present you with this mug.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I have to say, Mark talked me into going to their convention down at 360 2 years ago. And that's one way I first heard about Earth Angels. We went to this conference, you know how they always have the goodie bags and all these displays. The entire room was lined with the tie toys all around the room for this project. It was awesome. Do you remember seeing that? It was totally awesome.